Please remember to subscribe to this channel if you would like to hear the rest of my book, Heard Love from Above, which I'm reading chapter by chapter and posting. This is Chapter 5, The First Morning. The savory smell of baking, frying, wafted up the stairs all the way to Claire and Charlie's room as the early rays of sunlight peeked over the horizon. Claire hugged her pillow tighter. She loved visiting Haven's Rest. At least, she had before Auntie's passing. Now, she wasn't sure how she felt. "Are you awake?" Charlie whispered. "No," she groaned. "I'm dreaming of deer and an elk, one with a huge rack." Charlie laughed. "Is her hair red?" Claire swatted his arm. "You behave yourself," she scolded, "and you have the wrong sex." His chuckle was ornery as he continued his teasing. "You started it." "I wasn't talking about—" But her sentence died off as Charlie rolled over and pulled her into a tight embrace. Claire was one blessing he would never take for granted. Paige was correct. He had waited many years for her, and he would do it all over to have her by his side. They had only been married for 2 years, but those 2 years had been the most wonderful of his life. Now, he couldn't imagine living without her. She was beautiful, inside and out. Her funny antics kept him in stitches. Her witty personality kept him on his toes, and her lovely smile was the highlight of his day. If he could awaken to her smile every morning and drink a hot cup of tea with her each evening for the rest of their lives, he would consider himself the most fortunate man in the world. "I smell bacon cooking," he said in response to her playful swat at a roving hand. "You're still talking," Claire teased. "I said I'm asleep." Charlie tightened his grip as he kissed the back of her neck. "I know, but that's when you're the cutest. I was hoping you would give me a little more sleep-talking ammo." "You don't need any more blackmail material," she responded. "I think you've already had enough for a lifetime." "Sure I do," Charlie chuckled. "Oh, and I'm still waiting for you to investigate the cost of that harem. It sounds interesting to me." "Charlie," she protested, "do you never forget anything?" "Nope," he answered. "Why do you think I started keeping a pen and paper beside our bed? I don't want to forget any funny things you say in your sleep." She tried swatting him again, but his hand grabbed her wrist before she could. "Gotcha," he teased. She blushed. "I still don't know where that came from. I haven't watched a movie with a harem for— Sheesh, I don't even know how long it's been." He kissed her neck again. "Anyway," she continued, "I think you already have enough blackmail material. You don't need more." "Nah," he disagreed. "One can never have too much ammo. Besides, your sleep-talking is priceless, even if only for the laughter. By the way, you never did pickle me that mouse, and I'm still wondering how it might taste." Claire rolled her eyes. "That was the first night we met," she complained. "Nearly 3 years ago. Surely you can put it to rest." "Nope," he again teased while snuggling deeper into her hair. "Paige gave me a hankering for raspberries yesterday." "Oh, really?" "Yep, really," he grinned. "Real raspberries, too. Do you suppose Auntie still has some frozen ones in that huge freezer?" "She might," Claire replied. "If she does, I'll make some raspberry fritters for tonight's gathering." Yum. Claire breathed in the aroma of bacon. "I'm not sure who's cooking, but I should go downstairs and help. There's a lot of mouths to feed this morning." "I still have that craving for a raspberry," Charlie said, displaying an ornery grin. "I'm sure you do, Mr. O'Dare," Claire joked while squirming out from his embrace. "But we still need to get moving if you guys are going to make it to the lake and back before the meeting." Charlie reluctantly sat up. "I could forego the lake." Claire laughed. "You get raspberry pie all the time. Take advantage of the week. Besides, Buck will be waiting for you." She grabbed her clothes and dressed as Charlie mournfully climbed from the bed. "Who was the other man Buck mentioned?" Claire asked. "Jude," Charlie answered. "He was one of the first men to need a place to hide." "Why did he have to hide?" "Something to do with his ex-girlfriend and her family," Charlie answered. "We'll probably learn more about him this week." Claire pinned the front sides of her hair to the top of her head. "I'm looking forward to this evening," she said. "Me too," Charlie agreed. "Buck said their stories are similar, but since most abusers aren't very original, that stands to reason. They all seem to follow the same patterns and play the same games." "I think they should all receive the same punishment," Claire inserted. "What's that?" "Go back to the Old Testament. If we handed them over to the victims' families and allowed their loved ones to punish them, I guarantee you that people would think twice before hurting someone." Charlie's eyebrows raised. "Yep, I'm sure that would eliminate much of the abuse." She nodded. "God's pretty smart. This world would be a much better place if we followed Old Testament guidelines in this arena." Charlie looked up just in time to see Johnny exit the house and slowly tread toward the barn. He wasn't dressed in the riding clothes Buck loaned him, nor was he wearing chaps or boots. "Something's wrong," he thought to himself as he tightened Cheyenne's saddle before returning his attention to the young man. Trigger and Shasta were already saddled, and Buck was gathering the filled water canteens. They were ready to leave, but now he wondered if they had saddled one too many horses. "Johnny?" Charlie greeted as the young man neared. "You're not dressed for riding. Aren't you going?" Johnny's eyes met the ground as he slowly shook his head. "I can't," he said. "Madison's underwear got wrinkled in the suitcase, and I need to stay and iron them." Charlie burst into laughter, though Buck did not. There was no amusement on his face. When Charlie noticed Buck wasn't laughing, his laughter died, and a frown took its place. Confused, he glanced back and forth between Johnny and Buck. "You are joking, Johnny," he said, "right?" Johnny's shoulders remained hunched, and his eyes were glued to the barn's ground. After Charlie's response, he was embarrassed and half wished he had thought to lie about why he couldn't go. "No," Buck said, answering Charlie's question. He placed the canteens on a nearby bale of hay. "He wasn't." Charlie shook his head in disbelief. "What? No, you can't be serious." Johnny's expression never changed. "You iron her underwear?" Charlie finally stated. "I could get the underwear done in time," Johnny commented, "but I'll never finish them and the sheets too. She didn't sleep a wink last night because they weren't sterile, and I don't want to delay your ride. I'll just wait and go with you tomorrow if you're going again." "Sterile?" Charlie probed. "She's germophobic, and the iron heat kills any germs lingering on the underwear or sheets." "Wait a minute," Charlie again responded. "I'm missing something here. Even if Madison is germophobic, which I seriously doubt, why are you ironing her stuff? Why can't she do it herself? And you," he turned his attention to Buck, "you knew he was for real. How did you know he wasn't kidding? I've never heard of anyone ironing their underwear, much less demanding someone else do it for them." Buck's birth into an abusive relationship and the hundreds of people he'd met through Bobby Joe's ministry had given him a lifetime of knowledge concerning abusive behaviors. He knew what was happening, so he looked Johnny straight in the eyes when he spoke. "A lot of abusive people require their partners to do things like ironing their sheets or underwear. It's one of the ways they maintain power over that person. When the abused person fulfills the abuser's ridiculous demands, they have more assurance that the individual is still under their control." He continued without hesitation. "And it demeans the abused person. Madison's using it as punishment because she feels Johnny stepped out of line last night." Johnny turned his attention from Charlie to Buck. "No," he said with wonder in his voice. "She really is afraid of germs." Buck continued, "She's been here with her mother multiple times throughout the years and has never had an issue with the sheets. I can't speak for the underwear, but to my knowledge, she has never been germophobic. I've seen her doing many things a germophobic person would never do, including making mud pies out of manure. I've watched her kiss a drooly dog on the mouth," Charlie inserted. "If she's germophobic, it didn't develop until she was nearly an adult. Does she constantly wash her hands or use hand sanitizers?" "No," Johnny said. "She says that dries her skin." "Uh-huh," Charlie uttered. "She needs her underwear and sheets ironed for sterilization, but she has no problem kissing drooling dogs or making manure pies, nor does she use hand sanitizers. Isn't that a bit contradictory?" "Johnny," Buck continued, "last night, when you got to your room, did Madison chew you out for helping Claire bring in their luggage and retrieving the boxes?" "Did she ever?" Johnny said. "I slept on the floor." Charlie pinched the skin atop his nose. "Does that happen often?" "There's only one bed in the room," Johnny said. "I expected to be on the floor anyway. We haven't slept in the same bed for 3 years. She can't sleep with me beside her." "You're coming with us," Charlie informed, his statement more an order than a request. "And we need to talk. Paige is my cousin, and Madison is her daughter and your wife, but what they're doing to you is wrong. You need a day away from them to get your bearings." "I'm sorry," Johnny said, "but I can't. If I go with you, I'll have hell to pay when I return." "What does that matter?" Buck asked. "Sounds to me like you're already living in a nightmare." "Look," Johnny protested, "relationships are hard. I know that. I just need to try a little harder." "How many books have you read on the marriage relationship?" Buck suddenly quizzed. Johnny's eyebrows flew toward his hairline. That seemed like a strange question for someone to ask randomly. "A lot," he answered. "How many of those books has Madison read?" "None. She said I'm the problem, the one who needs to change." "Have you tried to get her to go to a marriage counselor with you?" "Yes," Johnny answered. "I've begged her to go repeatedly so the counselor can help me to be a better husband, but she adamantly refuses." "Why wouldn't she go?" Charlie asked. "Madison said she would rather die than go to a counselor. She finally gave in and went when I told her I was filing for divorce, but she hated it and claimed I must be sleeping with the counselor for her to be choosing my side. After trying 2 more counselors, Madison refused to go anymore. Things did get better after those meetings, at least for a while." He rubbed his head. "Look, marriage is hard. I understand that. It's the same for everyone, and Madison and I do have good days." Buck cleared his throat before asking, "Johnny, what percentage of the time do you have those good days?" Johnny's brows crinkled. 20%, maybe? "And are you doing exactly what she wants that 20% of the time?" Johnny considered Buck's question before answering. "Yes," he finally concluded, "I am." "That means the other 80% of the time, when you aren't doing exactly what she wants, she makes your life a living hell." An expression of understanding clicked in Johnny's eyes. "Yes," he agreed, "you're right." Buck turned toward Charlie. "If you run back inside and grab some clothes for him, I'll get another pair of chaps and boots. I've got some out here that should fit." He turned toward Johnny with determination. "You're coming with us. Bobby Joe's ministry was built for people like you. You can tell Madison that we kidnapped you, for all I care." Madison glared through the window as she watched 3 horses with riders heading toward the mountain path. Her face flushed in anger, and she could swear that steam was rising from her body. How dare he defy her again? This was the 2nd time in less than 24 hours, and if she weren't careful, she would lose her meal ticket. That would be horrendous. He was a good provider, although she would never admit that to him. If she lost access to his income, she would have to get a job, and she would never be able to afford her hobbies, vices, and expensive tastes on any income she could earn. Neither did she want a menial job like regular people. Okay, she thought to herself, this isn't working. She kicked a nearby shoe, knocking it across the room. Without caring who heard, she blasted out a furious scream. It was now time to change strategies. She turned toward the mirror and practiced her best smile. "Hello, dear," she said, producing a fake smile. "I'm so glad you decided to go riding today. It's silly that I thought my underwear couldn't wait, and I ironed the sheets myself. It gave me a migraine, but seeing you enjoy your day made it worth the pain." She moved closer to her image and tried again. "Hello, dear. I'm so glad you decided to go riding today." She grabbed her hairdryer from the bureau and threw it against the mirror, causing a small break in the bottom corner of the glass. "How dare you?" she thundered, fire burning in her eyes. "How dare you?" "What's wrong?" Paige demanded as she ran into the room. She noticed the broken mirror and hairdryer on the floor. "What has he done now?" "Oh, Mama," Madison cried as she fell into her mother's arms. "He's so horrible. I don't know if I can deal with his abuse much longer. No matter what I do, it's never good enough. I try so hard to be the perfect wife, but he doesn't." Her words dissolved into sobs of anguish. "What in the world?" Paige said through clenched teeth. She patted her daughter on the head while rocking her tightly against herself. "I'm so sorry he's mistreating you, honey. I'm fed up with his... I'll speak with him immediately." "No," Madison barked. "No." She wiped the tears from her eyes. "I don't want you to talk to him. Not now. It won't do any good until we leave this cursed place. Uncle Charlie is putting horrible thoughts into his head. I know he is. He's trying to get Johnny to leave me." She began sobbing again, much louder than was necessary. "How will I pay the bills if he leaves me? I'd have to get a job. You know I can't get out of bed in the mornings. It's a disability." "Yes, dear," Paige said. "Yes, I know." She guided her daughter toward the bed. "Lie down here, and I'll get a wet cloth for your forehead." Madison laid down on the bed and covered her eyes with her wrist in the pretense of having a migraine. Her sobs were loud and obnoxious when Paige first walked away, but they lightened when she heard her mother's faint voice cursing in the bathroom. She grinned. Her mother would know how to deal with her uncle's meddling. Between the two of them, they would get Johnny back on track. A few tears of repentance, a little love bombing, and the promise of a night of intimacy always straightened him out. After all, he was raised in a Bible-believing church and didn't believe divorce was right, so he would forgive anything to preserve his marriage. "Now," Paige stated after exiting the bathroom and nearing the bed. She placed the cloth on Madison's forehead and continued, "I've got a plan." "Mother," Madison chided, her face still wet from the tears, but her voice was cold and calculating. "What are you up to?" A conniving grin rose on Paige's face. "When I gathered Auntie's jewelry, I didn't waste time packing it into a box. I shoved it in my pocket. Some of those pieces are generations old and worth a small fortune. Also, if we can just get that collar off little miss, you'll never need Johnny's paycheck ever again. We'll be set for life, and you can discard that womanizing creep." "We've tried catching little miss already," Madison moaned. "She won't come near either of us. She doesn't like us." "No," Paige agreed. "But if we can trap her, then they'll notice the collar is missing. Uncle Charlie said..." No one will ever know because animals run off to die all the time. She hugged Madison tighter. If there's no body, then there's no evidence. But what if they find her body? For a collar that valuable, they'll send out search dogs to hunt her down. There will be nothing left to find, Paige assured. I'll make sure of it.